The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Dr. Elena Martinez entered, her worn laboratory coat a stark contrast to the gleaming armor and ceremonial robes of the assembled delegates. Whispers followed her like shadows, the human representative, who had never contributed anything of value, the species' greatest disappointment. "The human arrives," sneered Ambassador Vextar, his crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into rainbow fragments. "What useless invention will she present? Today?" Elena kept her eyes forward, ignoring the familiar sting of their words. For 3 years, she had endured the Council's ridicule. While other species contributed force fields, faster-than-light engines, and quantum computers, humanity's offerings were deemed primitive. Basic medical supplies, simple communication, devices, and what the Council called emotional nonsense. The Supreme Arbiter, a being of pure energy contained within a golden sphere, spoke with a voice like distant thunder. "Dr. Martinez, the Council has grown weary of humanity's quaint contributions. This is your final opportunity to prove your species worthy of membership." Elena nodded, placing a small, unremarkable device on the presentation pedestal. It looked like nothing more than a modified radio transmitter, cobbled together from salvaged parts. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "I present humanity's greatest gift, not technology but understanding." The chamber erupted in derisive laughter. The insectoid Zephyrians clicked their mandibles in amusement, while the gaseous ethereals swirled in patterns that conveyed mockery. "Understanding?" Ambassador Kelthan of the militant Draknari Empire stood, his scaled form towering over the assembly. "Your species has contributed nothing but philosophical drivel and primitive emotions. You waste our time with—" His words died as a thunderous roar echoed through the chamber. The massive blast doors, designed to withstand planetary bombardment, buckled and tore like paper. Through the breach stepped a creature that made even the battle-hardened Draknari step back in terror. The Beast King stood 12 feet tall, his obsidian hide scarred by countless battles across the galaxy. His eyes burned like dying stars, and when he spoke, reality itself seemed to tremble. For centuries, he had been the Council's greatest nightmare, an entity of pure destruction that had razed entire star systems, immune to every weapon, every strategy, every desperate attempt at negotiation. "Where is the human?" His voice shattered. Crystal displays and sent several delegates fleeing. Elena stepped forward, her small device in hand. The Council watched in stunned silence as she faced the destroyer of worlds without flinching. "I'm here," she said simply. The Beast King's burning gaze fell upon her, and something impossible happened. The monster that had never shown mercy, never displayed anything but rage and hunger, hesitated. Elena activated her device. It wasn't a weapon or a shield. It was a translator, but not for languages. It translated the one thing every species in the galaxy had dismissed as worthless: emotion. The device hummed softly, and suddenly the chamber filled with something the assembled delegates had never experienced from the Beast King: his pain. Raw, overwhelming anguish flooded through the room. Centuries of loneliness, of being feared and hunted, of being the last of his kind with no one to understand his suffering. Elena felt tears streaming down her face as she experienced his torment. "You're not a monster," she whispered, her words somehow reaching him despite the vast chamber. You're just alone. The Beast King's terrible form began to tremble. For the first time in anyone's memory, his voice carried something other than rage. You understand? Of course I understand, Elena replied, stepping closer despite the waves of destructive energy radiating from him. Humans understand pain. We understand what it means to be different, to be rejected, to lash out when you're hurting. The device continued its work, broadcasting not just the Beast King's emotions, but Elena's response, compassion, empathy, and something the Council had never witnessed: unconditional acceptance of someone else's pain. We all called you a monster, Elena continued, now standing just feet from the being that could vaporize her with a thought. But monsters aren't born, they're made. And you've been hurting for so long. The chamber held its breath as the Beast King, destroyer of worlds, slowly lowered himself until he knelt before the small human woman. His massive head bowed, and when he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. I am tired, he admitted, so very tired of being alone. Elena reached out and impossibly touched his scarred face. The gesture should have killed her instantly, but instead, the Beast King's destructive aura began to fade. You don't have to be alone anymore, she said, softly. Humanity understands. Around them, the Council watched in awe as centuries of destruction and fear evaporated in the face of simple human empathy. The Beast King, the scourge of the galaxy, wept. The Supreme Arbiter's voice, when it finally came, carried a note of wonder. How did you know this would work? Elena turned to face the assembly, her hand still resting on the Beast King's bowed head. Because this is what humans do. We don't just build weapons or faster ships. We understand hearts. We see the person behind the pain. She gestured to her simple device. Every species here contributed technology to make us stronger, faster, more efficient. But strength without compassion, speed without understanding, efficiency without empathy, what good are any of those when faced with someone who just needs to be heard? The Beast King rose slowly, his eyes no longer burning with rage but with something else entirely: hope. The human speaks truth, he said, his voice now carrying the weight of authority rather than destruction. I have fought your greatest warriors, resisted your most powerful weapons, ignored your most eloquent diplomats. But she... He looked down at Elena with something approaching reverence. She offered what none of you could: understanding. Ambassador Vextar's crystalline form had dimmed to a whisper. We never considered... That's the difference, Elena said, addressing the entire council. You saw a monster to be defeated. Humanity saw a person to be understood. You've spent centuries trying to destroy what you feared, while we've spent our entire existence learning to heal what others have broken. The Supreme Arbiter pulsed with golden light. Dr. Martinez, the Council formally withdraws its assessment of humanity as useless. Your species has accomplished what our combined military might could not. Elena smiled, exhaustion finally showing on her face. We don't need to be the strongest or the smartest. Sometimes the galaxy just needs someone who cares enough to listen. As the Beast King pledged his protection to humanity and the Council scrambled to rewrite their understanding of true strength, Elena Martinez, once called useless, had given the galaxy something it had forgotten it needed: compassion. In the end, it wasn't humanity's weapons that saved them, but their hearts.